series of Nehemiah, and the series of Nehemiah is about two words, good work. We all have a good work in our life. For Nehemiah, the good work was dealing with a wall that was torn down. And this wall around the city of Jerusalem, it was his hometown. It was the people that he loved. And because that wall was torn down, what that meant is that any terrorists, any gang, any group of pillagers could come right through that city and utterly destroy and cause mass destruction for that city. And so he said, he's there working for a king in a foreign country. He said, my good work is to go down to Jerusalem and help them restore that wall. We all have a good work. We all can think of one right now. It could be your spiritual life. One of the reasons you're here this morning is you said to yourself, I have a good work, and that good work is getting my spiritual life in order. It's not great. It could be better, and that's the thing I needed to work on. Maybe you're just looking around at your family, and you're like, okay, I keep putting this off. We need to address these particular problems. It makes me a little nervous trying to deal with these issues, but I'm going to address that now. As Nehemiah is addressing rebuilding the wall, I'm going to address my family. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's I need to step out of this particular employment and I need to go somewhere else. Whatever it is, we, for the most part, say, I've got something I need to do. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks is Nehemiah has said, I've got something that I need to do. First, I'm going to ask the God of heaven to help me. Then I'm going to ask my boss, my king, to help me. And so God stepped in, and the king stepped in, fully resourced them. And Nehemiah goes down to the city of Jerusalem. Before he even tells people he's there and what he's all about, he inspects the walls. And once he inspects the walls, he gathers everyone together that has any work, any relationship to this good work. And he says to his fellow country people, he says, we are going to rebuild this wall. This is our city, and our city needs to be rebuilt, needs to be rebuilt for the glory of God. This is our good work. And that's where we find Nehemiah today. Now, we ended at the end of chapter 2 last week, and we're going to retread the end of chapter 2 because I want to come back to a specific moment that Nehemiah has with his critics. So there he is, and he's made the big speech, and he's told his brothers and sisters what he needs to do. And we see in chapter 2, at the end of chapter 2 in verse 19, it said, but when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite servant and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they jeered at us. Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arab, these are the villains of the story. You want to know who the villains are? You want to know who's opposed to them? It's these individuals. They will come up again and again and again. Every single time they go out to do what needs to be done, Sanballat will show up with his buddies. And so we see that they jeered at him. They jeered at him. They were his critics. We all have critics. When you think about the good work you know you need to do, you can also think about the critics, right? In fact, you may not have done what God has asked you to do because you hear the critics. You hear the condemnation. You hear the critiques. You hear them tearing you down and saying, this will never work. You don't deserve this role or this position. Who are you to step in and fulfill this work? And so it says here, they say, what is this thing that you are doing? You are rebelling against the king. Why would they say that? Why would they say you are rebelling against the king? Because his enemies know that there's some truth to this statement. Let me explain. You see, a while ago, some other people went to Jerusalem and said, hey, we need to rebuild this city. Walls are torn down. There's no temple. We need to rebuild our city. So they started to do that. That was actually in the book of Ezra. They started to do that. And there was a king, an Assyrian king, that found out what they were doing. Guess what his name was? Artaxerxes. The same king that Nehemiah works for. So Artaxerxes in Ezra finds out that they're trying to rebuild this city. And Artaxerxes says, stop it. I know what you're doing. I know you want to rebuild the city, and once you rebuild the city, you're going to try to take your country back. I don't want you to do it. Nehemiah went to go do this good work, knowing that his other friends had already been in Jerusalem, and that his boss had already told them to stop. And he knows that his boss had okayed this job, but he knows the history here. And so they accuse him, and they say exactly what they know will work on Nehemiah. You're rebelling against the king. In a sense, we're going to go tell your boss that you're doing exactly what your friends tried to do, and it didn't work the first time. Here's what's great about what Nehemiah does here. He doesn't respond to the critics' argument. He doesn't. He doesn't change his plans. He doesn't change his strategy. He doesn't say, oh, well, maybe I need to write another letter to the king just to prove that I'm on the up and up. He doesn't even consider their argument. He blows right past them, not addressing the critics' argument. And he says in verse 20, then I replied to them, the God of heaven will make us prosper. First he says, I don't care about the king. I really care about God, and he's the one that's going to make us prosper. The king really has no say in what we can accomplish. So he doesn't even address his critics. But he goes on to say, and he says, we, his servants, will arise and build, but you have no portion or right or claim in Jerusalem. You have no part in what you're doing. So, you know what? Not about the king, it's about God, and you have no part. I don't care about your argument about a king and rebellion. And I will tell you right now, when you're thinking about the good work you want to do, you must do, the first thing you can't do is respond to the argument of the critics. Don't consider it. Don't even acknowledge it. Walk right past it. Focus on God and what he wants you to do. And sometimes it's easy to do that. How many times have you guys set off on whatever you needed to do, and you started asking the questions, well, so-and-so said this, and so-and-so said that, and this person said that I shouldn't do it. So you start changing your plan according to all the critics in the room, until at the end of the day, your plan doesn't even reflect what God wants you to do, but reflects what all of the critics want you to do. Last week, I got the privilege of being invited to Biola to speak. And Biola's in Southern California, at Biola University, college students. So I got this honor to stand in front of about 1,100 college students and share some gospel with them, some good news. Now, as I was flying over, we got on the plane, you take off, I started to get a little anxiety about this conversation, about this sermon in front of all of these students. And it wasn't the numbers. The numbers didn't really get to me. To me, it didn't matter if there's 10 or 1,000, doesn't matter. But for me, the reason I was starting to get anxious is because I realized something. I am literally twice these kids' ages. Like, they're 18-year-olds in the room, and I'm 41. And I remember that a friend of mine in college, she got pregnant and she had a child. Her child is literally in college right now. I could be their dad. What do I have to say to some college students? But that wasn't the real thing that was starting to make me a little nervous, a little anxious. I started to ask the question. I'm going back to California. This is my home state, right? But I've been in Dallas for, 12 years, and in Indiana for 4 years. Did I have any California left in me? You guys, yeah, you have a lot of California left in me. But did I have any California left in me? Could I stand up in front of these California colleges? So college is already a different world. Then California is really a different world. Could I stand in front of all these Californians and speak to them? What if I got off that plane and I went and I bought a taco and I didn't even like it? What if for like the 3 days I was there, I was craving Cracker Barrel? You know? Because if there's one thing Indiana taught me, it's Cracker Barrel. So I get out there, and Jenny saw me. She could see I was not quite myself. She was like, I could tell you weren't quite yourself a little bit up there. And I wasn't, because I was like, I've been away from this audience and these people for so long. I didn't know if I could really communicate to them. And of course, the Spirit came. The Spirit did what he needed to do, and I was able to engage with the audience. Now, I'm sure I had critics in the room. I'm sure I had people in there that didn't really connect with what I was saying, didn't agree with everything I said, didn't understand my point of view. But what I knew going up on that podium is when I talked to them, I should not preach to the critics. I did not need to worry about them. I had a message for whoever was in that room, for those people who wanted to hear. That was my good work. You guys have a good work. Do not change your plans according to your critics. Here's the other thing about critics. They will never be on your side. See, isn't that one of the things that it feels like that they're trying to convince you, look, you could just change this, then I'll be on your side. No, that's the point of a critic. They're not on anyone's side. They take pride, stepping away from any camp, from any group, and holding themselves over everyone. They will never be on your side. You're wasting your time. They don't have any say. That's what he says to them. It's like, you guys have no part in what we're doing. You never will. I am here to raise up my fellow countrymen and women, and we're going to do a good work. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. So when we think about going to do this good work, the first thing you got to do is just put those critics aside. But the next thing we have to consider is who is actually on your team, right? Gathering your team together, because that is important. What we see here in chapter 3, verse 1, one of the things I want to point out to you guys here is that in chapter 3, throughout the entire chapter, what they're going to do is essentially do a roll call. And he's going to talk about who was on his team to build this wall around Jerusalem. Now, in doing this roll call, we're going to see a theme. So as I read through this, we're going to begin to see a theme in regard to those who gathered and supported him. To help understand this theme, go ahead and open up your bulletins. There's a piece of paper like this. It says Nehemiah's Jerusalem. Okay? In Nehemiah's Jerusalem, what we recognize is that Nehemiah assigns individuals to work on certain portions of the wall. He assigns them, and so as we walk through the passage, we're going to literally trace from one point of the wall all the way around to the other side. We're going to start at, it says Temple and Men of Jericho, and we're going to go counterclockwise. We're going to go Men of Jericho, down to Zakur, down to Meremoth. You guys can follow it on this piece of paper, or you can just listen to the passage. Now, when I read the passage, I'm not going to read every word, because what I want us to do is actually focus on a theme that works its way through chapter 3. And it's an important theme. Chapter 3, verse 1. Then Eliashib, the high priest, rose up with his brothers, the priests, and they built the sheep gate. So that there you see sheep gate right above the word temple to the left. It says sheep gate, Eliashib, priest. Now we're going to drop down. And it says in verse 2, and next to him the men of Jericho built. And next to them Zakur, the son of Imri, built. Verse 4. And next to them Meremoth, the son of Uriah, son of Hakaz, repaired. And next to them Meshullam, the son of Berechiah, repaired. And next to them Zadok, the son of Banana. And next to them, in verse 7, next to them repaired Melatiah, the Gibeonite. Next to them Uziel, the son of Harahiah, making this up. Next to him Hananiah, one of the perfumers. Next to him Jediah, the son of Haramoth. And next to him Hattush, the son of Hashabniah, repaired. Verse 12. Next to him Shallum, the son of Halohesh. Verse 13. Hanan and the inhabitants of Zanoah repaired the valley gate. And Shallum, the son of Hoaz, ruler of the district, repaired. After him Nehemiah, the son of Azbuk, ruler of the district of Bethzur, repaired. After him the Levites repaired. Next to him Ezer, the son of Jeshua, ruler of Mizpah, repaired. Verse 20. After him Baruch, the son of Zabai, repaired. After him Meremoth, the son of Uriah, son of Hakaz, repaired. Verse 22. After him the priests, the men of the surrounding area, repaired. After them Benjamin and Hashub, repaired. After them Azariah, the son of Asiah, son of Ananiah, repaired. After him Benua, the son of Hanadad, repaired. After him Pedaiah, the son of Parosh, and the temples of the servants, repaired. The water gate. After him the Tekoites repaired. After them Zadok, the son of Immer. After him Hananiah, the son of Shelemiah. After him Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired. And the merchants repaired the sheep gate. What words did you hear over and over and over? Just throw out some words. Repair. Okay? Any other words or phrases? Gates? Anything else? Looking for 4 words. After him and next to him, or next to them. Nehemiah gathers all these individuals together to do a work. Because Nehemiah could not have rebuilt the wall himself. He needed everyone. But in this case, what we see is he has one person next to another, next to another, next to another. And if they were not standing next to each other to rebuild these walls would not have been built. My question to you in regard to your good work, who is next to you? Who is next to you? See, Nehemiah is humble and he's wise, because often when we have whatever we're trying to do, we try to go out and, we try to go out independent. We're going to do it on our own. But Nehemiah says, I cannot do it on my own. I have to have a team, and I'm going to put them right next to each other, and they're going to do the good work. My question to you is, who is next to you? How do you know someone is supposed to be on your team? I want us to recognize a couple of things in regard to chapter 3 and what we saw. He works with people who have skin in the game. He works with people who have skin in the game. What do I mean by this? This is their city. See, when their city prospers, they prosper. When their city flourishes, they flourish. He is working with people who will have a positive effect. There will be a positive effect once the walls are built. They will be the recipients of that. If someone's going to be on your team, make sure they have skin in the game. Make sure they actually care about the good work. Nehemiah could have hired, he had resources, he had the king. He could have brought a bunch of workers to repair the wall. He could have gone to some neighboring countries, could have gone down to Egypt, tried to rally up the Egyptians to come and repair this wall. It probably would not have worked. Their heart would not have been in it. But he got his own fellow brothers and sisters to come around and begin to repair these walls. You know who needs to be on your team is someone who actually cares about the work that you're doing. Let's say it's your spiritual walk. Okay? One of the things you said over and over is, I got to address my spiritual walk. Sometimes, we say that. We definitely say that. But sometimes we reach out to our closest friends, but those closest friends at times are maybe agnostic or atheistic, and we just have these conversations like, Jesus and God and the church, I'm just really not sure, and I just have so many questions. It's okay to have questions with people like that in your life, but if you actually want to begin to address your spiritual life, those are the people you should be reaching out to. The people you should be reaching out to are those you respect, those who are mature in the faith, those who can lead and guide. Now, some of us don't want to do that because there's some insecurities there. What if they judge me? What if they look down on me? What if they condemn me for the decisions I make, or even the way I read the Bible or understand God? What if they critique? What if they're a kind of critic in my life? I will tell you, if they are spiritually mature, they shouldn't do any of that. If they're spiritually mature, they shouldn't be judging you. And if you find that you're often judged and critiqued, and you find them talking about you behind your back, they're not the spiritually mature person that you want on your team to work on your spiritual life. Go find someone who is spiritually mature and that can walk with you. Find someone who actually cares about the work that you're doing. The next thing I want to point out is he worked with people who own their part of the work. See, as we're walking around this wall and we're looking up at who is repairing what, more times than not, they were repairing the parts that they lived in. This is like their part of the city. They own those city blocks, and so the walls they are repairing is actually the parts that they own. Like, that really meant something to them. When you bring someone to help you and support you in whatever you're doing, make sure they actually own the work. Make sure it is theirs. Make sure it really reflects who they are. And to be more specific, what I mean is when you bring in someone in that owns the work, make sure that it really reflects their particular giftings and their abilities. Because that's everything. If you bring someone in, they can have the biggest heart, they can really want to help. But if it's not really who they are, it's going to be a hot mess for you guys. A couple months ago, we were in West Texas. We were sitting there with our adoption agency, and we were in an orientation with the adoption agency. It was a 2-day orientation, and they're walking you through and preparing you for what's going to come next in the adoption process. So at one point, they prepared Jenny and myself. They said, look, you're going to have a lot of paperwork to fill out. In fact, you're going to get a thumb drive. This thumb drive is going to come with 80 documents that you're going to have to fill out. And this is not just signing some papers. This is like CPR training. This is background check. This is whatever. And they said to us and to the room, they said it usually takes 6 months to finish all the documents. Now there has been told that some story has made its way around that a couple actually finished all 80 documents in 2 weeks. Jenny and I looked at each other and said, challenge accepted. We're going to do it in 1 week.
No.
You see, here's the thing is we have a timeline. We've got things we got to work on. We have grants we got to fill out. We actually have to get this done faster than the average person. And guess what? We got it done in 7 days. I paid a guy. Now here's the thing. I was confident when I looked at Jenny and I said, challenge accepted. Let me tell you why I was confident. Because God has blessed us, and really is, I'm recognizing this blessing, that we really are a team as a couple. You know, my particular contribution is, you know, I'm always coming to Jenny and I say, you know, my heart is this. I really feel like God is leading us in this direction. You know, whether it's to come to Indiana and lead a church with it, or to adopt, or to whatever. Usually I'm the one that comes forward and says, this is my heart. This is my vision for our family. And then Jenny says, okay. And then she gets it done. And I know that I have a wife who is on my team, and she complements me in a particular skill set and giftings. When you bring someone in, make sure they own their part of the work. It is who they are. It is their design. If you have the right people there, then the good work will be seen and it will be done. Some of you guys are like, well, you know, Pastor Kevin, this is a nice sermon, but it's kind of unfair. Because the truth is I don't have anyone. I don't have anyone. I'm doing this alone. At work, raising kids, taking care of an aging parent. I'm doing it alone. And so to say, push your critics away and bring your team forward, to even say that hurts. Because I look around and I'm on my own. And that idea that you're on your own, it breaks my heart. It does. To be in this place of loneliness, in this place of feeling like you've been set aside and you've been rejected. But I want us to consider some things. Because I don't know if it's actually true that you are completely and totally alone. And so I want to leave us with 2 questions. First question is, do you have enemies that should actually be allies? Let's go back to your marriage. Is your spouse an enemy, but should actually be an ally? See, when we're backed up into a corner, when we're exhausted, when we're tired, when the critics are coming after us, when we're completely overwhelmed by our circumstances, the flesh gets to us and we begin to lash out at the people we love the most. We lash out and we push them away. And then we have something we're trying to overcome and we can't because our ally becomes an enemy. We are literally pushing away the people we need the most. Take a moment to ask, look in your life right now and say, is that person really my enemy? Did I make them my enemy? Am I pushing them far away because I'm so hurt and so overwhelmed that I can't even deal with the situation? An observation I also want to make is you have allies, but you're living with your enemies. What I mean by this is you're in the wrong camp. For whatever reason, you've placed people around you who may feel like friends, but they are actually not on your side. We kind of talked about this earlier. They're not on your side, and you've placed yourself square in the middle with them. You feel overwhelmed by life. You don't know how to navigate. You want to overcome, but the only people you see around you are enemies. Your allies are way over there, and they're saying, step out of that camp and come over. Are you surrounded by people you don't need to be surrounded by? And sometimes it's hard because you have people in your life, they may actually be an enemy, but they're a sense of security. They make you feel good. You feel loved. At least you have someone in your life. You know, this other group of people who would love to take you in and to love you and support you and at times challenge you and work with you, you don't want to make that move because you might lose what you know. What you know, even though they are not on your side. As we continue to explore the life of Nehemiah, the two things that we have to remember that he's going to do over and over, and I love about this guy, is he doesn't give any energy to his critics, but he gives all of his life and all of his energy to his allies, to his brothers and sisters, in order to do this work. That's the only way forward. That's the only way you're going to be able to get past whatever you need to, is that you do not answer the critics, but you invite